everyone, this is Gina. Today I'm going to show you how to make a necklace with the newest treasure bags, the Pastel Passion. Now you had two color choices, and this is color mix 2, this is color mix 1. I've made an example in both colors so that you can see what they look like, and this one is the one I will be making on camera today. And then you can just pick out whatever you would like for your color mix 2. You don't necessarily have to use the bright pink. I give you some alternatives, and this is what we're going to do. So you don't have to have the treasure bag to do this. You can do this with any pendant and any beads that you have on hand. This is a technique that will work very well for everyone. So if you do not have the treasure bag, just follow along anyway. You can do this too. Let's go ahead and look and see what it takes to make this particular project. Okay, for this project we will be using some of the things found in the newest treasure bags, Pastel Passion Color Mix 1 and Color Mix 2. However, this process will work very well with any pendant that you have and any beads similar in size to mine that you have in your stash also. So you can make a set like this. Just be creative if you do not have the treasure bags. So we're going to be making the tutorial with color mix 1. This is color mix 2. I have used the 6x4 pink rondelles in the bag, the opaque pink. You can of course go ahead and use this strand. They're called abacus or abacus, and I do not know why they just look like a rondelle to me, but you have a strand in the pink bag or the color mix 2 as well as you have in color mix 1. I am using the strand from color mix 1 that are the abacus simply because the 6x5 opaque in color mix 1 is peach and you have purple pendants. So I have gone through my little color mix or my strand and picked out the beads that I could find that had a pretty good purple tone to them. So it's kind of a pinkish purple tone. So I will be using those. I think it will match better. You can also use these that come in color mix 2 on yours if you would like. Instead of making it all pink, breaking up the tone a little bit would be just as pretty and maybe a little bit less pink. So this is what color mix 2 looks like. We're going to look at what we're going to use for color mix 1 and all the things that you will add whether you have color mix 1 or color mix 2. So we're going to use some of the abacus or abacus beads here. We're going to use the 3 drop pendants, whether they're pink or purple. We are going to be using one of the lobster claw clasps. We are going to be using some of the gold chain that's in your bag, and we will be adding to the bag 2 small wire guardians. So this is a size 1. It's a very small wire guardian. You could use a little bigger one if you would like, but I wouldn't get too big in size with it. Then we will be using some 8/0 and some 11/0 seed beads. I am using Toho's. This is galvanized permanent finish Starlight. We will also be using 2 ear wires and 4 4mm jump rings. We will be using 2 beading needles, size 12, and I'm using 10-pound Nanofil. You can use 6-pound Fireline also, or 8-pound Nanofil. And I want you to go ahead and get your things together, and then I will show you what we're going to do. We're going to thread both of our needles and get started on this particular project. Okay, to start this project, you're going to put about 3 feet of thread onto 2 needles. So you're going to put a needle on both sides of the thread, and then you're going to make sure that the amount of thread that you've drawn through the needle is about the same length on both sides. That way you can make sure that you're working with the same amount of thread on both sides after you center your first step here. So Once you've got 2 needles threaded onto your thread, then you're going to pick up one of your little pendants and we're going to bring it to the center of the thread. So I'm just going through with one needle, then I'm going to put my 2 needles together and center my pendant just like this. And then I'm going to put my 2 needles together and I'm going to pick up an 8/0 seed bead on both of them and scoot it down to the pendant just like that. Then I'm going to separate my needles and straighten out my piece just like this. Now I've got a needle on the right side and a needle on the left side, and I'm going to pick up 3 11/0 seed beads onto my, actually 2 11/0 seed beads, and then 2 of my Rondelle beads, and then an 11/0, and I'm going to drop it down on this side. Then I'm going to pick up the same series on the other needle. So 2 11/0s, a Rondelle, and, or 2 Rondelles, excuse me, and an 11/0. And I'm going to drop it down on this side, just like this. Get that 11/0 down there. Then I'm going to pick up 1 Rondelle, and I am going to scoot it down to the thread. So I've got it on my right needle. I've scooted it down. Then I'm going to pick up my left needle and put my left needle through. So basically I'm crisscrossing the threads through the bead and drawing it down to the center of my thread here, just like this. Now we have to secure this, so we're going to sew through 1 needle at a time the entire thing. So I'm going to start with my right hand needle, and I'm coming out of this top bead here. I'm just going to start to sew down all the beads on the right side. So I'm going to go into the 11/0, both of the rondelles, the 2 11/0s beneath those rondelles, into the 8/0, and then into the loop on the clasp. And then I'm just going to pull it through. Now this gets all boggled up. It's okay. Just pull it through, straighten it out, and now we're through the loop here. We're going to sew up the left side and then back out the center bead here. So we're coming through the loop. We're going to go into this 8/0, both of the 11/0s, the rondelles, and then we'll go up through the 11/0 and the top one. So we're going to go through here and through this one. Now we're going to take the left thread and do the same thing. So pick up your left thread and just go down into all the beads on the left hand side of the pendant here, into that 8/0, and into the loop of the pendant, just like this. Pull this through, and this time it'll stay together better for you. We'll go up through the 8/0 and into all the beads on the right hand side of the piece, into this 11/0, and into the bead on top. Now everything's reinforced. It should look nice and tight and neat. Just arrange it so it looks really pretty like this. And then we're going to pick up our right hand needle, and we are going to go into the 11/0 seed bead on the right side here, because we're coming out of the top bead. Then we're going to pick up an 8/0, an 11/0, and an 8/0, and then we're going to go into the opposite side of that 11/0 we're coming out of, just like this, and pull these down. Now we're going to sew back through them so that they're nice and secure. So 1 bead at a time. I'm going to go up through this 8/0, then through the 11/0 on top here, then through the 8/0 here, and then into the 11/0 seed bead again, and just the 11/0 like this, just like that. Now I'm going to go ahead and sew to the top bead in this little unit so that my thread is in position for my next step. So I'm going to go up through this one and then into this one. Okay, now I am going to do the same thing on the other side with the left hand thread. So I'm going to have to go through this 11-0 seed bead on the left hand side. So I'm going to park my right needle out of my way and do the same thing. Pick up an 8-0, an 11-0, and an 8-0, and go back into that 11-0 you're coming out of and go in on the opposite side, just like that. Pull your needle through and then sew back through each bead individually. So I'm going to go up into this 8-0, into the 11-0 here, into the 8-0 here, and then into the 11-0 I started in. Again, I'm going to sew up to the little 11-0 on top of this unit to position my thread. And this is what you should have, just like this. Now we're going to make another little unit to lead up to where we can put our wire guardian on and then put our chain on. So we're coming out, I'm going to start on my right hand side here. We're coming out of this 11-0 seed bead here. We are going to pick up three 11-0 seed beads, and then a rondelle, and then 3 11-0 seed beads. And I've dropped all these down, and I'm just going to go back into the opposite side of the 11-0 that I'm coming out of, just like this. Pull this down. Now I need to sew back through all these beads to secure them. So I'm going to go through the 3 11-0s here, and it's loose and wobbly, so just give yourself a second to get through there. And don't entrap your pendant. Poor pendant, come out, come out. There we go. And then I'm going to continue sewing all the way around this little unit. So into the rondelle, into the 3 11-0s on this side, and into the attaching 11-0 here. Now I have to sew back up into the rondelle to position my needle. So I am going to go all the way up these 3 again. Come on. There we go. It's hard when I can't just flip it around all over the place, well, like I do if I'm not on camera. So then we're going to go through here, and this is what you should have. Now we're going to just finish one side, and then you can do the same thing on the other side so that we can move along a little bit faster here. So what we're going to do is make another unit here of right angle weave. We're going to pick up an 11-0 and then a rondelle. So we'll pick up 3 rondelles and 4 11-0s in the process here. And I'll show you what I have on my needle. Come here. Okay, so this is what you should have. 11-0 between each of the beads, and start with an 11-0 and finish with an 11-0. Then bring these down and go into the opposite side of the bead you're coming out of, just like this. Pull this down. And I did that wrong. Actually, that looks good, but we actually just want 3 rondelles. Sorry about that. I'm going to back out. And we're going to just put 3 rondelles on there. You could do 4. It kind of looks pretty, but it's going to work out better. Plus I designed it already and I know it works, so we're just going to pick up 3. I apologize for that. So start with an 11-0 and end with an 11-0, 3 beads with 11-0s in between. Then we're going to go through the rondelle here. Come here. There we go. Now, I'm going to sew back through this entire little unit. So all the 11-0s and all the rondelles, we're just going to go up through all of them, just to reinforce everything and make it nice and neat and held together well. There we go. Now we want to put our attachment on, but we want to put it on this bead here. So that will be your 3rd 11-0 seed bead. If you're counting from the bead that you're coming out of, we're going to sew up to this 11-0 seed bead here. So let's go back into all these beads. And I'm not actually going to exit that 11-0. I'm just going to exit right next to it out of this big bead here. So this is where I'm positioned right here. And now I am going to put on a little attachment for my chain. So I'm going to pick up an 11-0 seed bead. I'm going to drop it down to my piece. Then I'm going to pick up a wire guardian. I'm going to go through one of the tubes on the wire guardian here, just like this. And then I'm going to bring it down to my piece. Then I'm going to pick up my piece and situate the wire guardian so I can just kind of hold on to it like this. Go through the other side of the tube, right there. I'm going to hold on to that between my thumb and my finger and draw that thread down into the divot on the wire guardian. This way I can feel it slide through my fingers and I can draw everything together. Just like this. Now I'm going to pick up an 11-0 seed bead and I'm going to go into this rondelle. So I'm ignoring the bead in between the rondelles, the 11-0, and I'm just going into the rondelles with this. Bring this down. Now we have to sew all the way around this unit, back up through the rondelle again before we can tie off this side. So let's go into all the beads again. So I've gone through the 11-0 and the rondelle, and I'm just going to continue traveling around this unit. When I come through this bead, I'll come through the 11-0, the rondelle, the 11-0 underneath the wire guardian, and into the wire guardian like this. Then I'm going to go into the other side of the wire guardian, the 11-0, the rondelle, and the 11-0 behind it. I'm going to hold onto the wire guardian and draw my thread in again, just like that. Now I can go through this bead, and I'll just go up through this 11-0 right here. Then between the 11-0 and the rondelle, I'm just going to put my needle through, just like this. Then I'm going to kind of pull my thread forward and position it, the loop that I'm creating between the 11-0 and the rondelle, and I'm going to tie a knot. Then I'm going to sew up through this next rondelle, and do that again. Ouch, I stabbed myself. Pull that down. Then I'll just go up through this 11-0 and rondelle, and I'm going to exit right there. I'm going to cut this off very short. You can use your thread zapper. You can melt this down, leaving a little tag, whatever you'd like. I'm going to try to cut it off real short. Okay, so this is what your unit looks like. And then we're going to go ahead and attach our chain on here after we do the other side. So go ahead and do the other side exactly the same way I just showed you how to do this side, and we'll be back and we'll finish up the necklace. Okay, so as you can see, I have finished this side. I put on my wire guardian, tied off my piece, cut off my thread, and now I have prepared 2 pieces of chain to put on the top of the necklace. So I have cut both pieces exactly the same number of links and about 8 inches long. I'm targeting an 19 inch necklace. So if you want a longer or shorter necklace, just cut more or less chain. Now I have gone ahead and opened a 4mm jump ring and put on my clasp on one side and a 4mm jump ring and an 8mm jump ring on this side. So I forgot to tell you in the list that you'll need a little bigger jump ring for your clasping. Now, if you don't know how to do the jump rings, I'm going to show you, and we'll attach it on the bottom here. But it'd be the same thing on the other side, just put on your clasping with it instead of attaching it to the necklace. So I've got a 4mm jump ring here. I'm holding the opening here. Hold one of your pliers on one side of the jump ring and the other plier on the other side, and just crank it open like this. And then we're going to put this jump ring onto the wire guardian and then grab the very last link of the chain here and put it on the jump ring. And then close the jump ring the same way you opened it, just in reverse. Just crank it shut. And let's make sure that's closed. Yeah, it looks good. And then we'll do the same thing on the other side. So grab my jump ring here. Well, come here. I'm trying to find the opening, but it's hard to see. Okay, right there, I think. And just crank it open. And the same thing, just put it on the wire guardian, put it on the last link on your chain, and close your jump ring. And now you will go ahead and put your small jump ring and your clasp on one side, and small jump ring and a bigger jump ring on the other side, and then straighten it out. You will have a beautiful little necklace just like that. So now we're going to go ahead and make a pair of earrings. So you're going to need a couple ear wires and both your pendants, of course, your rondelles and your seed beads. I'm going to rethread both of my needles, and I'm going to put about 2.5 feet of thread on, and put the needles on the both sides of the thread again like I did before, and I will be back and we will make some earrings. Okay, so again, I have put my thread, put 2 needles on both sides of my thread here, and made sure that the excess that I've drawn through the needle is basically the same length on both needles. And then I am just going to start again the same way, pick up one of my pendants, go through the loop on the pendant, and then I'm going to put my needles together and draw that pendant to the center of the thread. Then I'm going to put both my needles together in one hand. I'm going to pick up an 8/0 seed bead and draw it down both needles and then down the thread, and then separate my threads, separate my needles, making sure that the thread is not twisted. You've got the right on the right, the left on the left. And then we're going to basically do the same thing again. It'll be a little bit different towards the top of the unit, but we're going to pick up 3 11/0 seed beads, I got my thread all weird, sorry. Okay, come on. So we're going to need 3 11-0 seed beads, or excuse me, 2 11-0 seed beads. Geez, Gina. 2 11-0 seed beads, and then 2 of your rondelles, and then an 11-0, and drop it down. And then on the left needle, I will do the same thing. 2 11-0s, 2 rondelles. Come here. And an 11-0. And drop it down. Then on my right needle, I'm going to pick up a rondelle, draw it down to my thread, pick up my other needle, go through the bead with it, and just crisscross the threads, draw the thread down, draw the bead into the center, just like this. Got stuff everywhere. All right, so then again, we're going to sew through the entire thing with 1 needle at a time. So I'm coming out of the bead with my right hand needle. I'm going to go down into the 11-0, all the beads on this side and through the loop. So I'm going to pick this up, go down into this 11-0, and they're going to spread apart, do weird things, but I'm going to go through all these beads on this side into the 8-0 centered, and then into the loop of the pendant. Draw this down, tighten both of my threads, and then go back up through the 8-0 and all the beads on the left hand side of the unit. And this 11-0 and 8-0 you have to do separate, or 11-0 and rondelle, because the angle. So I'll go through that one, well, geez Louise, and then go through the top one here. Okay, come on, stop it. It's just being crazy. Okay, so now I'm going to pick up the left needle and do the same thing. I'll go through this 11-0, all the beads on this side, into the 8-0 and the loop with my left hand, my left-handed needle. My left-handed needle. Oh, whatever. You know what I mean. Okay, so I'm through all these beads and the loop, and pull this down, just like this. Then I'm going to go back up, all the beads on this side, up through the rondelle on the top here. And then I can go into the 11-0 and the rondelle centered, just like that. Now I have my little unit secure. I am going to go down into, I have my right hand needle, I'm going to go down into the 11-0 next to the bead I'm coming out of here. I'm going to pick up an 8-0, an 11-0, and an 8-0, and go back into this 11-0, just like this. Pull this down, and then sew back through. Boy, that 11-0 is huge. I think, or 8-0, I think I'll leave it, but I don't know. Looks a little big to me. Yeah. Every now and then you'll get an odd-sized Toho. Not very often, but you will occasionally get one. And if you do, just take it off and get another one. But I'm doing a video, so I'm just going to go all the way around. So I went around all the beads, came back to my connecting bead. I'm coming out this side bead now, and I am going to go through the 8-0 or the 11-0 on top here. Okay, so I did that a little bit differently than on my design. These were 11-0s and that was an 8-0. But I think it's going to be okay. We're going to go ahead and continue here. And we're going to go with the left hand needle into the 11-0. And we're going to pick up 8-0, 11-0, 8-0. Drop this down, move this thread away, and I'm going to go back into the 11-0 I'm coming out of. Pull this down, and then I'm going to go up into all the beads again. So up into this 8-0, so around this entire unit, one bead at a time. And back into my connecting bead. So I'm going to sew up to the 11-0 on the top of the unit here. Okay, tighten that, make sure everything looks good. And then I've lost a needle on one of my threads, so let me put it back on, and then we will tie it off because all we need is one needle now. So, but I have to have this on here to tie it off, so here we go. Now, we're coming out of this top bead. We don't need this thread anymore, so we're going to come back down around and tie off. So we're going to come into this bead right here, the 8-0. We're going to go into the connecting 11-0 and the rondelle behind it, right here. And then between these two rondelles, you're just going to stick your needle through, create a loop, organize your thread so that the loop is between the beads, go through the loop with your needle and tie a knot down between those beads. Then we're just going to sew down through our connection again. So I've got this rondelle here. I'm going to go through it, the two 11-0s, and the 8-0 here. I'm going to go through the loop of the pendant, back up into the 8-0, and then into the two 11-0s and the rondelle on this side. Tie a knot between the rondelles. Oh, come here. Position my thread so that it is between the rondelles here. And then go into the loop and tie a knot. Boy, everything's just arguing with me. There we go. Now I'm just going to go up through this rondelle, and I'm going to cut my thread off real short. And I will continue with my right hand thread, making the rest of my design here. So what I'm going to do is I'm coming out of this 11-0 seed bead here. I'm going to pick up two 11-0s and come here, and a rondelle. Drop it down. Then I'm going to pick up an 8-0 and then I'm going to grab my ear wire. Now you can put a wire guardian on the top of this if you'd like. I find that with earrings, wire guardians make them kind of twist funny, but you can do that if you'd like. Make sure the loop on your ear wire is completely closed, so you can just crank it open a little bit and then push it towards the long portion of wire going in and close that loop really well. And then come up through the loop on the ear wire. Then go back down into the 8-0 and the rondelle. And just hold on to it and pull everything down. See, my thread went through, so is that not closed? Let's try that again. So I'm going to, I have my two 11-0s, my rondelle. I'm going to go through the loop here. I think I just missed it. And then I'm going to go through the rondelle and just the rondelle I want an 8-0 on top of there. So we're going to do this again. I'm sorry, guys. So 2 11-0s, a rondelle, an 8-0, and then your ear wire. Geez Louise, Gina. And then we're going to go through the loop on the ear wire. Then we're going to go down into the 8-0 and the rondelle right here and pull this through. Then we're going to pick up 2 11-0s and we're going to go into the 11-0 on the top of this little picot here we created. So just go into this right here. It's like that. Now we have to sew up and around so that we can reinforce this. So here I'm going to go into the 8-0 right behind the bead I'm coming out of, right here, and then the 11-0 between the 2 rondelles, and then into this rondelle in the center, just like this. If I can come out the 11-0 on the other side, that's good too. Let's get you close. So through this 8-0, through this 11-0, through the rondelle, through the 11-0 on the other side, and pull it through. Then I'm going to sew up through this 8-0 and into this 11-0 and the 2 11-0s above it, into the rondelle, into the 8-0, and into the ear wire, just like this. Then come back down, all the beads on this side again, just like this. Pull that down, and one more time. So through this 8-0, this 11-0, this rondelle. Let's see if I can get that 11-0 too. No, I cannot. So that's okay. Now we can just tie this off, or you can go up through it again if you'd like. I'm just going to go ahead and tie this off. So I'm going to see if I can get through this little 11-0 here between these rondelles. Once you exit, it can be hard because it's tight. So let's see if I can get through here. Yeah, I got it. And I'm going to go down into this rondelle too, because that's the angle my needle wants to go in. So there we go. Now I'm just going to put my needle through the beads in the center here and arrange a loop that will go down in between the beads and pull. Then you can sew all the way back through your pendant again and go to the other side, or you can just cut your thread off right there. I'm going to see if I can do this, and I think that's getting too tight. So I'm just going to cut off here. I'll go through this rondelle just to get away from my knot, give it slippage room, and then I'll cut this off down here. Now I can burn that down with my thread zapper, which I don't know where it's at right now, or you can just tuck that little extra piece of thread, just take the back side of your needle here and just tuck it into the bead. And that's not working either. So I guess everything I do today is just going to be one of those days. Sorry guys, but you know, and burn it down, tuck it in there. Okay, so hopefully that just wasn't a jumbled up mess for you, but we're going to go ahead and make one more off camera and come back and look at the set. So I think that turned out pretty cute. Yeah. Okay, let's make another one and we'll be back. So here are both sets that I've done, and of course this is color mix 2, this is color mix 1, and I kind of think that I should have used these with color mix 2. I think the purple turned out so pretty that way. The pink is very pink. So if you're making this for a little girl or something, or if you just really like pink, that would work too. But I think breaking it up with the strand of these beads that came in Color Mix 2 would work really nice too, because I really like the way this one looks. And of course you can use any color you want, and you can do this with any pendant you want. So you can make this come out very fancy or very casual, however you want to do it, depending upon what you make. You could do this all in platinum with a metal pendant. That would be pretty too. Use some turquoise colored beads or something like that. Would work really, really nice for a lot of different types of beads and pendants. Would turn out really pretty. So anyway, that's what we've made today. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. I will be back with more. I think I might do something similar with these little pendants that were in our treasure bags, and we will move forward. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you did, please consider subscribing, clicking the notification bell, and maybe even leaving a little thumbs up, even though I was like not very smart today. I'm very tired and I apologize for the fumbling, but it got done. That's what matters. We'll see you later. Bye-bye.